Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Beautiful day so far, a little hazy sky. It's not clear like it had been, but still so far so good. There's rain in the forecast over the next few days, but hey, that's not terribly unusual. Last night my wife and I did another video. It came out a lot later than I wanted it to. Between waiting until sunset and then having internet issues of getting it all uploaded, it didn't post till pretty late. So I'm sure a lot of you probably missed it. But if you want to go back and watch us, that one is up there. I think it's Saturday Night Doom and Gloom is what it's called. And basically, I go over the previous, well, I guess it'd be about 48 hours now or so. But there has been just a slew of stuff in the news that's going on. A lot of big stuff. The International Atomic Agency, or whatever it is, from the UN, come out with this big report that in fact Iran has been making weapons grade uranium. They have a lot of it. They have enough to actually build anywhere between 10 and 20 nukes, and that they are making enough of this material to produce one nuclear weapon each month, and that they said they have all the components to build these nukes. They're just not put together, and they said that it would take a week, maybe 2 weeks, for them to actually put a nuke together, but that they have everything that they need. They also said that they discovered 3 underground secret facilities where they've been manufacturing this. So that's a major change, because all along Iran's like, oh no, we're not doing this, we're not building this stuff, you know, we're complying and everything. And now that this has come out, so I think it just increases the odds that Israel will in fact attack Iran, and also based on this, I think there's a good chance that the United States would become involved in that. Several other things going on. The thing that I said this last night, that I think is probably the biggest bit of news that's happening, and it's finally starting to get some legs. It's starting to get a little bit of airplay. Is this story that broke that the Trump administration has tapped Palantir, which some of you know who this is. This is a big tech company, a big brother tech company. You know, they compile and build algorithms and technology to compile data. It's a big PSYOP company. I'm not saying that the company itself is a PSYOP, but what they do is PSYOPs. I mean, to put it very plainly, that's what they do. They have bragged about swaying elections and sentiment in Europe. That their software and their technology was used to push the pokey poke during COVID. JD Vance has very close ties to this company. They're one of the bad people. Okay, you gotta see that for what it is. Well, anyways, the news is that Donald Trump and the Trump administration has given a contract to them to develop one big, huge central database here in the United States of every American and of every bit of information that they have on them. Now, I know a lot of people, even last night when we were talking about this, there were comments of, well, the United States already has all your stuff. That is true. It's not that they're collecting this data. The data already exists. What they're doing is taking all that data and compiling it into one big master list. So, you know, the Department of Education may have records of your education, where you went to college, your school loans, you know, where you graduated high school. The IRS may have tax records on you. The FDA or someone like that may have all these medical records on you. The Social Security has those records. The military has other records. And so what they're doing is they're taking all of this data and compiling it into one big master list, so that the government has everything on you all in one place and with the click of a button. And this is all being done with AI. This was and is what the Doge efforts with Elon Musk is. It's not so much to bring efficiency, it's to inject artificial intelligence algorithms and systems into the U.S. government so that they are able to run things. A few years ago, the CIA came out and was in the news saying that they were going to start doing this. That the CIA had collected so much data on just anything and everything over the decades that it was too much for humans to compile. They would, a team of human beings would have to set for centuries to put all this data together, and so they were using AI to do it. So this is pretty scary. This is extreme Big Brother stuff. A massive expansion of the Patriot Act is what it's doing, and people should definitely wake up, because the implications here, a social credit system would be very, very easy to develop after this. Now we have everyone's information all in one place. The systems, that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand that the government is very inefficient. And while they do have a lot of data, it's not efficient to where, the FBI can access the IRS's data, and the IRS can access the National Energy Department, there's not this cross connection of data, and so that's what this is doing. That's a pretty big deal. We talked about several other things last night, and I think this morning the big thing that I saw in the news, we didn't talk about it last night because it hadn't happened yet. Ukraine has launched a massive attack into Russia. Drone attack. Now, this is on the heels of supposedly trying to work out some type of peaceful deal between Ukraine and Russia. And it's just, how's that going to happen? If Ukraine is trying to take Russia's president out of the sky, shoot him out of the sky, if Russia is making massive incursions into Ukraine, it's becoming very personal and for each side. We also have to understand that the amount of misinformation coming from each side, I don't know, maybe I'm incorrect in this, but to me it just feels like this particular war, you can't trust either side, and it has the highest level potentially of misinformation coming out. I mean, and little information. We really know very little on a day-to-day basis what's going on. There's no official numbers of death toll and casualties. There's no official numbers of how many tanks have been lost and planes. We don't hear about that. We hear very, very little of actual actions. It's just every once in a while we hear some big thing. So the big thing is that Ukraine launched a major drone attack to three or four airfields of Russia. And depending on the news that you're seeing, because it's all over the board, some news is reporting that a major part of Russia's strategic air force has been knocked out. They're big, bombers that could potentially drop nuclear weapons have been taken out. Others, it's just there's been 10, 15 of them that have been damaged. Who knows? There is video of this. But I think that this is a very big deal. It was reported just after this that at the Kremlin, a lot of the top officials went into some kind of secret meeting to discuss, I guess, what they're going to do to retaliate. I'm sure the retaliation will be stiff. It's just extending and escalating this even further. I don't think it's to the point that they would start dropping nukes on Ukraine, but who knows what would happen. But this is a pretty big deal because it's another major attack inside of Russia. Every time that happens, things just get pushed further and further to a bigger event, and the tensions are just so high right now. And then so we've got Iran with the nuclear stuff. I mentioned that. Now we've got Russia with this, and then we switch over to China. And while up until yesterday or the day before yesterday, there hadn't been any new news, at least that I had seen, coming out about China and Taiwan. But all of a sudden, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, made this announcement that the threat from China on Taiwan is very imminent. Like it's very serious and it's very imminent. He calls for a rapid buildup of military strength, not just from the United States, but from Asian allies. That an attack on some part of Taiwan, or this move to try to retake Taiwan from China, seems imminent. Like it's right around the corner. That seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. Is there some kind of intelligence, obviously, that we don't know about? Of course. I mean, the answer's got to be yes on that one. But things seem to be all of a sudden escalating there. You know, this also comes in the heels of the report from I believe it was the Treasury Secretary, that the negotiations between us and China on a trade deal has fallen through. That they've just fallen apart. Remember, there was a 90-day pause or relief on the tariffs, the high tariffs, to try to negotiate a trade deal, and the United States is saying that that's fallen apart. And China it doesn't seem to be happening. And then now all of a sudden this report from the Pentagon that, you know, the threat from China in the South Pacific is very imminent, and that, you know, the United States and its other allies in that area need to rapidly increase its military presence and arms. We have gone through this cycle, I'd say, several times over the last few years. There's a lot of other stuff going on too. You know, Trump is posting strange things on his social media, you know, talking about Joe Biden has been a drone for the last 5 years or whatever. You know, there's all kinds of weird things. But this cycle of pushing to the very edge of some type of major escalation, World War III, nuke, you know, whatever it is. This has actually happened a few times over the last few years. And then at some point it starts to back off of that. You know, it looks like something is really imminent, and then it kind of backs away. But here's the thing to remember. Every time it backs off of that, it never goes back to normal. You know, we've pushed the goalpost further. We didn't cross the goal, but we've pushed him a little bit further, and then we backed off a little bit. And so each time the intensity is more. At some point you would think something is going to pop off in these three situations, or in something else. Who knows? I think it's very important for us to just continually prepare for this stuff, and then also to understand that it's probably is a big distraction for all the real bad, nasty things that's going on behind the scenes, like this Palantir creating this big database. This was not an announcement from the White House. In fact, the reporting is that this has been happening since back in March. So this is something that, you know, here's the deal. You like it or not, the Trump administration likes to brag about things, right? They like to brag about what they're doing. So if this is something that they thought the American people would like, and that they could get some momentum and stuff, some praise, they would have announced this back in March. They didn't. They've kept this quiet because they knew that the American people, MAGA people, Trump supporters, would not support this. So this has been kept secret for months, and it just came out in the last few days that, you know, they're creating this master database on all American citizens. That this was the same thing that this software. Let me bring this out. The software that they're using, this technique, is the same thing that they use to find terrorists. So what they're doing is they've contracted Palantir to take this terrorist software and use it to create a database on all Americans. So I guess we're like terrorists now, because it's the same thing that they've been doing to track down, you know, different types of, you know, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and then also illegals, these gang members and stuff, Venezuelan gang members. This is the same stuff that they've been using to track them down. And so now they're just using it to create a big master database on everyone. They're not bragging about that. So it tells you something right there. But all of these other conflicts that are just on the verge of popping off, I don't think they should just be discounted. I'm not saying that they are going to escalate into a major war. I know a lot of you still believe that nothing's going to happen with these things. They've been drug out, and they're not going to happen. But that's actually kind of normal in history, and at some point things do cross the line. I mean, that's what happened between Russia and Ukraine. It got drug out. People kept saying nothing's going to happen, and then it did. And so I don't think we should just ignore these things. We should get prepared. We should be proactive in being ready for a major shift and a major change. Because if the United States finds itself in a three-front war, I assure you, things will change for us here in the United States. There will be drafts. There will be all types of new surveillance and laws and restrictions if that were to happen. So we need to prepare ourselves and get ready. And then, of course, be just getting ready in general, because this new world order that is being bragged of now, this golden age, it doesn't look much different than what we've been preparing for the last many years. And so I don't think we're going into some new great era. I think it's just the same thing wrapped up in a different bow. Get your houses in order, folks, and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.